written.
Well,
I thought, I waited till yesterday, Saturday, I thought I'm gonna practice rehearsing it, but then my entire world turned upside down. I'm not only an alum, a graduate school alum at Brown, I ran the Brown Graduate School, Medical School LGBTQ organization for 10 years. And then after graduating, I worked as a staff member at Brown. Now that I'm back in the area, this is my first semester. I trained as an alum advisor. So I'm just devastated I haven't slept until Friday. So this is all to say, I'm sorry if I stumble in reading this poem. So please forgive me. I did read it one time and I even had trouble turning the pages.
Let's go slow.
Okay, I'll go slow. Slow and smooth.
Yeah, take your time.
Right. It's called Between Cities and the Tide of Elsewhere. I come from a place where the sands still carry the muscle memory of my vanished footsteps, where the breakers lean low, brushing the shore with quiet insistence, speaking in a language I almost understand. Look at you, you are still standing. Grief pressed its entire body onto my ribs, a stone cold enough to crack a spine, teaching me silence first, then survival, then the slow, reluctant shape of hope. My father was already woven into the past, dead 5 short years, and when my mother left two days before Thanksgiving, on the day my birthday fell on Thanksgiving, like the universe had a dark sense of humor, my voice split in two, a fault line learning the vocabulary of earthquakes. My house became a hollow that echoed my name back to me like a eulogy. I became an only child with no parents and nowhere to place my hands except into the mouth of a grief that didn't stop multiplying. The doctors in the cancer ward saw the way I stood alone, how the world suddenly had too much sky and not enough arms. They paid for a motel, 2 nights borrowed from Mercy so I wouldn't spend my birthday and Thanksgiving in my mother's empty apartment, listening to my cries ricochet off walls that refused to answer back despite my longing. I stayed a 3rd night on my own money because sometimes survival costs extra, because I couldn't bear the silence, because I couldn't bear the truth, because I couldn't bear myself there, not yet, not ever. So I ran with 3 black cats, newly adopted, to help me breathe until the next sunrise. Technically, it was a plane, but let's call it ran because emotionally I left skid marks on the tarmac. London, a city that hums like it already knows where your ghosts are buried and chooses not to tell. A city that held me upright while I learned the choreography of standing. 5 years of Marmite and cheeky Nando's, tea too weak to sip but too comforting to abandon, and bookshops that felt like chapels open late for confession. 5 years of old friends and new strangers whose kindness said, you are still here, you are still here, and that's enough for tonight. In that sprawling, beautifully mismatched city, I was free in ways I didn't know were padlocked inside me. Free to laugh too loudly, kiss too boldly, walk like I trusted the ground. London didn't just let me be queer, it paraded it, wrapped it in rainbows, refuge, and relearning, in the kind of steady that calms a soul you didn't know had been bound for years. But healing has a gravity, a pull. The tide remembered exactly where I came from, the fathomless summons murmuring home, home, even when you're not ready. I packed my life again, folded the courage I'd learned, shoved the grief into the pockets of my coat, and pointed toward my heartland of schooners, barks, and ships, back to the coastline that raised me, to waters that memorized my childhood laughter and still held those echoes in their motion, back to gulls that gossiped louder than small towns, to waves that rolled in steady as my heartbeat, singing the shanty of someone who sailed too many storm miles. Coming home felt like dropping anchor, the ocean exhaling, saying rest. You are safe in your harbor now. Except home has grasping fingers. They reach for old fears, pull them out like moth-eaten sweaters you thought you'd outgrown. Suddenly I'm counting glances again, measuring laughs, holding back kisses, deciding how small I need to make myself to fit into rooms that once taught me to shrink. But I don't want to shrink. Not again. not ever. I don't want my love to be something I carry like a secret in the depths of my soul, just to keep a stranger comfortable. Still, fear is stubborn. It acts like it's been house-sitting this whole time. But something between the trembling and the trying, I started gathering small gentlenesses, a morning where my breath didn't echo like an empty church, little proofs that life could widen again, quiet rebellions against the version of me that only knew how to brace for impact. Slowly, the rooms inside me stopped feeling haunted and started feeling inhabited. And now I've got 4 cats. 4. It turns out my coping mechanism is adopting small furry monarchs who nap 18 hours a day and still judge me for not doing enough with my life. And there are days when I find comfort in something steady, whose branches reach wide enough to let me stretch, whose roots run deep enough to hold me, to lean my presence against without fear, to remind me that even when storms pass, there is a place I can grow toward, where the leaves whisper in a language my heart remembers and joy spills in, where I thought it never thought it would. And my heart longs for people whose hands feel like truth, whose essence feels like yes, whose smiles feel like home, built from everything I thought I lost. I want love that knows grief is not a monster hiding under the bed, but a room in a house where the light learned how to get in anyway. Love that sees all of me and stays like it's the easiest thing in the world. So here I stand, between cities, between chapters, between the parents I lost and the future still rehearsing its lines. Here I am, still learning, still longing, still walking forward with every cracked piece radiant with proof that I survived, still believing in love, not in spite of the fractures, but because of the way I am desperately trying to shine through them. And until then, I am here, heart open, heel grounded in familiar tides, 4 cats circling me like little marshmallows of vigilance, and I trying every day to be brave enough to be found.
Wow.
Yeah.